Representative, District 73, Montgomery, Alabama. Joe was elected in 2010 to serve in the Alabama House of Representatives. And following his election, the House Democratic Caucus elected him to serve as the Minority Whip. He was also selected as the 2011 Freshman Legislator of the Year. During his tenure in the Alabama Legislature, Joe sponsored and passed legislation that is responsible for sparking the growth of the craft beer industry in Alabama, bringing in over $8 million in investments and creating more than 350 jobs. Joe also sponsored and passed legislation to renovate and save the Garrett Coliseum. Joe has garnered bipartisan support for legislation that he passed, legislation to strengthen the state ethic laws and to make Alabama's elections more transparent. A native of Montgomery, Joe graduated cum laude from Huntington College and attended Cumberland School of Law, where he served as the articles editor for the American Journal of Trial Advocacy and as the chair of the Cordell Huss Speaker Forum. After graduation, Joe clerked for Justice Champ Lyons of the Alabama Supreme Court. He now practices law in Montgomery with his firm Brooks, Hubbard, and James, and he serves as an adjunct professor of law at the Thomas Good Jones School of Law at Faulkner University. Joe lives in Montgomery with his wife Ashley and 3 children, Hill, Hattie, and Hannah. He and his family attend the Episcopal Church of the Ascension. Joe is a member of the Montgomery's Kiwanis Club and serves on the board of directors of the Alabama National Fair, Holy Cross Episcopal Church, and the Ascension Day of Schools. So at this time, please welcome our friend Joe Hubbard.
Tony, thank you for the introduction. I don't know that I could have said it better myself. That's a joke. I wrote it. Actually, I think Michael, where's Michael? Michael might have written it. My name is Joe Hubbard. I am from Montgomery. I'm proud to be with y'all tonight. And let me tell you, last Thursday, I announced my candidacy for the office of Alabama's Attorney General. I am a Democrat. I'm not ashamed of that, and we may talk a little bit more about that tonight. But I want y'all to understand this. In terms of a campaign, this thing started on Thursday. This is my first official stop for this campaign. I want y'all to let that sink in for a minute. You all are the first folks I've come to see to ask for your help, for your vote, and for your support. Okay? It's a little bit like church, right? The preacher comes up and, this reminded me a little bit of like church because everybody's sitting in the back rows. If I were a good preacher, I'd say, now y'all come on down front. We're gonna have a little talk. But, it's a little bit like church. You catch fire for something you're passionate about, something you believe in. You got to go out and tell somebody else. You can't hide it under a bushel, okay? And for too long, our party, my party, the Democratic Party, has hid it under a bushel. I think we've let folks in Washington, D.C. dictate how folks see us here in Alabama and what folks think of us here in Alabama. And I want to be clear. I'm not a Democrat because folks in Washington, D.C. told me to be a Democrat. I'm not a Democrat because Joe Reed in Montgomery told me to be a Democrat. I'm a Democrat because I was raised with the values my great-grandfather, Senator Lister Hill, instilled in me. And those are values that if you're born in this state, you're lucky enough to be born in this state, you've got a shot to get ahead. With hard work, with a little bit of elbow grease, and with a little bit of faith and family, you can get ahead and you can have a family, you can provide for that family. My Republican friends will tell you, now wait a minute, not everybody can have a shot. Because if everybody gets a shot, then we got to cut the pie up too many times. My slice gets smaller. For the past 3.5 years, I've served down in Montgomery in the Alabama legislature. In 2010, I was elected to represent District 73 as the only Democrat in the state of Alabama to unseat a Republican incumbent. Y'all think about that for a minute. This was a wave election. Democrats all across the state were swept out. This was a district that had been Republican for 30 years. And we unseated that Republican incumbent. We didn't do it by talking about what's going on in Washington, D.C. We did it by talking about what's going on here in Alabama. We did it by talking about kitchen table values. I'm a father. I've been a father. My son's 5 years old. He's my eldest. I've got 2 daughters who are 2.5 and 10 months. My wife and I have been married for 10 years now, going on 11. Somebody on the radio show the other day asked me, "Now, are you for same-sex marriage?" And I said, "Look, not only do I believe marriage is between a man and a woman, I believe that marriage is monogamous." Okay, and that's something some of my Republican friends can't say. Okay, look, family values are not just something we toss around during political season. They're not something that we talk about when we're out courting votes. There's something that we live. There's something that we teach our children. And I'm running for the state office of Attorney General because I believe we can do better. Our values are better than what my Republican friends are giving us down in the legislature. I've been fighting since day one in the legislature to keep them from putting right to work in the Constitution. I have never met a group of people who can beat their chest over bad law and say, "You know what, that law is so bad, we want to make it harder to get rid of it." Leave it to my Republican friends to say that. Okay? I've been fighting from day one since I've been down there to ensure that on public works projects in the state of Alabama, that we have Alabamians working those public works projects. That's not too much to ask. Not to me. You know, it's your tax money. It's my tax money. Why do we want that money going to feed families in some other state? We've got Alabamians here in this state who want to work and who have families that they need to provide for. And that they should be our first priority. PPLs. Can anybody tell me why we can't have union labor bidding on these projects? My Republican friends say it cannot happen. They say it will destroy our economy. In my mind, I don't understand how having good union jobs to take care of families and to have a living wage on public works projects, how that's going to destroy our economy. It doesn't make sense to me, friends. And so these are things that I care about. They're things I fought for in the Alabama legislature. You want to see the consequences? And if anybody's a Republican, you don't have to raise your hand, but you can raise your hand in your heart, as the preacher would say. I'm speaking to you, and I'm not trying to tell you you're wrong. I'm not trying to tell you that there's something wrong with you for identifying with the Republicans. I'm just trying to show you that there's another side to the coin. Okay, my Republican friends down in the legislature, their policies are the ones that cost 1,600 jobs down the road in Cortland, Alabama. Those were their policies. The policies of the Business Council, that is the holy grail for Republican politics in this state. I've got a problem with that. That's 1,600 families that are going to have to go without in a community of what, 3,000? Is that about right, 3,000? So you got almost over half a community is without jobs. And you say, "Well, Joe, what can an attorney general do about that?" Right? He's just a lawyer, right? We don't like lawyers anymore than we like politicians. Well, I'll tell you, when it comes to Cortland, Alabama, y'all know as well as I do that in rural parts of this state, we have a very real problem with meth. Some of y'all may know folks. I've got friends who struggle with that addiction. And it's not an easy one to overcome. Now, in Cortland, Alabama, they're going to have to fight that addiction because there are folks looking to put food on that table, looking to put a biscuit in their kid's mouth. And God forbid I'm ever in that situation myself. But I'm here to tell you that if we can eradicate the cancer that is in meth in this state, that's going to go a long way to restoring these communities back to where they belong. As Attorney General, our state's highest law enforcement official needs to be focusing state resources on eradicating meth, focusing on crime, focusing on corruption, things like that. Okay? And we've got an Attorney General right now that would rather be shuttling all over the country, whether it be to Washington, D.C. or New Orleans, Louisiana, to wine and dine with his lobbyist buddies. Because guess what? That's what he did before he was Attorney General. He's done two things. He's lobbied in Washington for BP, for the Horizon oil rig. Anybody familiar with that? Y'all know about that, right? He was their lobbyist, people. That's what he did before he ran for lieutenant governor back in 2006. Well, he lost lieutenant governor in 2006. Do you know what he did after that? He started campaigning for attorney general. And this man for 4 years campaigned for attorney general of the state of Alabama, talking to people every day all over the state. And the good people of this state says, you know what? We'll give you a chance. Well, since he's been elected, where has he been? Where is Luther Strange? I can tell you this, in 3 years in the Alabama legislature, I've been to more counties in the state of Alabama and talked to more Alabamians about the issues that they're facing than Luther Strange has done in his entire term as Attorney General. That's a problem. If you are the state's lawyer, you need to know what issues the people of the state are facing. So at the end of the day, the reason I'm asking for your help, for your support, is because we need an Attorney General, one, that'll show up to work, and two, that when he shows up to work, he's going to put the people's interest before his own political agenda. And that's something that I'm intending to do for the people of this state. As my great-grandfather said, Lister Hill. Y'all know a little community down the road, Lister Hill, Alabama? Some of y'all know why it's called Lister Hill, Alabama. Okay, y'all, anybody, a lot of y'all are out at Browns Ferry tonight. A lot of the members of the 558 are out at Browns Ferry. But TVA, right? Y'all do some TVA work. Okay, my great-grandfather was the architect of the legislation that created the TVA. Okay, he understood what a good job is to people who want to work and provide for their families. And those are principles he passed down to me. And he told me, he said, Joe, public service is the highest of all callings. And I believe that to my core. That's why I ran in the first place. I don't want to be in the legislature for 40 years like some of these guys. I don't want that. I'm doing this because I feel called to serve my state, to serve my community, to try and make this state a better place for my children. And I know every one of you is here tonight because you believe that in working, going out there, being a member of this union, the 558, you can make this state a better place for your children or your grandchildren. Some folks, have multiple generations in the 558. Right? I mean, these are values we pass down to our families. That's why I'm running for Attorney General. That's what I believe in. And that's what I think we can do if we work together. If you leave me out there by myself to campaign the state, to knock on every door in the state of Alabama, fact is I probably won't get elected. But it's like they say in church. There's strength in numbers. When we bind, and look, y'all know this, when you bind together around common core, common ideas, common principles, you're a lot stronger together than you are separate. And so I'm here tonight to ask you to join me in a campaign to take back the state of Alabama. And don't take it back for us, because for some of us it's going to be too late. We've got to take it back for our children, for the next generation. Again, I'm Joe Hubbard. I'm running for Attorney General for the state of Alabama. I very much appreciate your time tonight, and I very much appreciate your vote. More than that, I'd appreciate your help. Thank you very much.